we'll know by next meeting. Okay, thanks. The all-important quarterly public forum.
All right, I also have an update on that.
Okay.
We were able to get in contact with the Department of Safety. We'd been talking about having it after the November 2nd election. So the week after that, where we have a little bit of time to digest the results and then respond and sort of let people know moving forward what's going to happen and how that might impact the board. Executive Director Murphy is available the evening of the 9th. That's a Tuesday. And so far, the board members who have responded to the informal poll that I sent out have all shown availability on Tuesday. So I think if possible, Tuesday the 9th would be ideal.
Perfect. Do we still have the, go ahead, Katina.
I had a question if it's, but I don't know if it's appropriate to ask a question. I'll wait until the entire presentation, but I think I wanted to just understand what we were expecting the program to be that we needed Director Murphy.
Go ahead.
My understanding was that we wanted Director Murphy to be available to address any concerns from the public at that time. That excuse me. That much of the meeting would be focused on the board and the election results and how that would impact, say, our responsibility for moving forward with the monitor search. But that, you know, if possible, we'd like to have a representative from the Department of Safety there to address any questions that or issues that might come up. But that can still change.
Yeah. Who's still on the public forum? Who was on that task, that subcommittee? I think it was April and Eric. Okay. So it was the two of you. And I guess that's probably a good question for one of you two. Yeah. Exactly. I definitely know that Murphy, but go ahead, Doc.
No, I was going to say we can chat more about what we would like to see from that, maybe even based off of today's meeting and some of the other agenda items we have pressing. But I did, like Daniel said, I know we wanted to center it around next steps in the monitor search post-election.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we do have well, it's funny, this time is going to come on us pretty quickly. I know last time we wanted Murphy, we weren't able to get him, so this may be a good opportunity to finally get him in front of folks. And like always, once they do come on, it's never a shortage of time and questions that come from the community. I think one of the questions that I did have, and maybe you guys covered this last meeting, I didn't see it, was whether it be in person or we're still going to do a hybrid, or is it going to be 100% virtual again?
I think next one might still be virtual.
Might still be virtual. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten response back about how boards and commissions are running still in virtual versus in-person spaces right now. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you. Board leadership will meet with Department of Safety's Transformation and Policy Group to go over the 112 recommendations, public safety related to board functions. So that I think that's one of the items that you sent out via email, Daniel, with those corrections. Is that right? Okay. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at those?
Just a summary of what we talked about in our meeting.
Yeah. Any questions or anything we needed to discuss at this meeting regarding those? I don't know. I kind of looked at the one that was highlighted from the changes that were made. I think it was a list of them. So.
Yeah, we can also, if people have further discussions on what the board's feedback should be or developing that, we can discuss that in executive session as well.
Okay, very good. Last item here before I go to Greg is my work schedule has changed quite a bit, drastically. I'm back to traveling almost pre-COVID travel levels, where I'm gone out of town at least twice a week, and I'll be gone twice a week for over the next 2 to 3 months until this IPO is done. But my work schedule is ramped up for probably more than 1,000%. And my bandwidth to continue as definitely as board chair is just not there. It's non-existent, actually. Came out of nowhere, didn't expect the growth this quick, but the market's been performing well, and the company's been performing well, and it's I've come to a point where I have to kind of make decisions with my time and be very judicious. And there's no way, no way that I can kind of adequate. We have a lot of balls in the air right now as a COB, from the election to the choosing of the IOM. There's just a lot. We have 2 membership spaces that will be coming up on us pretty soon. We have a new administrator, and it's just not something that I can definitely handle on my plate right now. That being said, I don't want to leave the board. I want to stay on the board, but I won't be able to continue as board chair. I'm missing too much in between here, and it's having me to make choices that I don't want to let the board slip, me not be able to do my job effectively. So I don't want to get off the board, but at the same time, I can't lead it, not effectively. So I definitely want to put that to the board, and I want to do it in the public space too, so that everyone can have a good understanding of why this is happening. I don't think it'll be anything bad. I think it will be good. Now, that being said, we can discuss in exec session how we're gonna approach it, and come up with how we're going to approach with the board chair position, I believe. And I looked through the bylaws and tried to make sure that we're doing how this kind of needs to play out. But I wanted to let you guys know that, and so that's something that we can discuss it in exec. If you got any comments, questions, or anything on that. All right, very good, thank you. Next is Greg Crittenden,
Actually,
independent monitor.
apologies. If you don't mind, I do have a couple of other general updates.
Go ahead.
It should be pretty quick.
Yep.
But just wanted to let the board know before we switch gears. I think the board was all on the email, but just want to provide an update, especially to the community as well. The board did provide comments to the Department of Safety on the drafted Public Integrity Division policies last Tuesday. And the board and the Department of Safety is committed to providing a substantive written response by close of business on November 10th. November 11th is a holiday, Veterans Day, I believe. And then we have Director Robinson attending a board meeting on December 3rd. So we'll have a few weeks after receiving those substantive written remarks to hopefully deliberate, and then during the December 3rd meeting, hopefully be able to reconcile that which can be reconciled, and then hopefully get these draft policies implemented. The other thing, other update is in regards to the NACOL conference. We had mentioned that earlier as well. There's an in-person conference December 12 to 16, as well as virtual webinars that can be registered for and joined. I just wanted to check, while most of the board is here, if anyone has a strong desire to attend that NACOL conference, either in person or register for particular webinars.
What is the date again? The dates?
So the in-person dates are December 12 to 16. It's going to be in Tucson, Arizona.
Let's see. Do we have to tell you now, or can we just
You can get back to me.
Okay, all right.
But if you're interested, that's good to know.
Okay, yeah, 12 to 16. Okay.
Really interested but can't attend. There's 2 a year, is that right?
One each year.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Plan on it next year.
Okay. All right.
Would the next one not be till the end of 2022?
I believe they're typically held in September.
This one just happens to be held in December, probably because of the pandemic. Okay. Okay. I'll let you know too. I need to check my schedule.
You know,
I just wanted to add that kind of historically, the NACOL conference has been one of the primary ways in which the board does some of the training that it's required to do pursuant to the ordinance. So if you can't attend in person, I guess I would urge you to consider doing something virtually. I think also it's a really good way, especially for new board members, to sort of connect with the subject matter in a different way, and also identify individuals across the country who are in similar shoes that we are. So yeah, just two quick points on that.
thank you.
It's also the case that the COB pays for members' travel and attendance. Is that correct? So if anybody was concerned about being
Correct.
able to afford.
That's in the
I'm
budget.
on vacation most of December, but I will try to finagle. Well, it's my vacation. I guess I can finagle it. Let's see if I can get to Arizona in person and break my long boycott of that state that I've had since 2006.
Yeah, it's from the them not voting in MLK Day, huh? There you go.
That's on their immigration stance.
Ah, the immigration. I'm with that too.
Excellent.
But they do have good food there, FYI. Is that it, Daniel? You have
Just one more minor, maybe
Okay.
two more minor things, but we do have, as it relates to, on the subject of the board paying, just an operational update. I am in the process of acquiring purchase and travel cards for board business, so that I think that's one of the final sort of operational back-end steps in terms of being fully sort of fully managing various board assets. And so that is in process and hopefully will be completed sometime next week. And then on that note as well, for board assets, I have been, it was on one of the action items earlier, but as it relates to social media and news media interactions, I have been working on drafting some general guidelines for how to handle and use social media and handle news media interactions. And so I'll be sending that to board leadership for my plan was to send it to board leadership for an initial review and then send it out to the full board for a fuller review and possibly approval. So just to get something, some guidelines in place for standard operating procedures. So that's going to be, the progress is being made, and that is that's something to look forward to. And then finally, almost done, I did put together a draft schedule for 2022, just in terms of board meeting dates, as well as some tentative QPF dates. They are in the Google Drive, and I believe I sent a link out in the previous email. So please, it's not something that needs to be decided by next board meeting, but if you don't like the dates of the QPFs or other things, the earlier you've mentioned something, the easier it is to get your way. So please do take a look at that. And with that, my board updates are complete. Oh, Bettina.
Just one quick comment, Daniel. I assume you're already working on this, but I noticed in the draft that we haven't identified the dates when we'd be meeting with safety leadership. But I presume that you are making those, you're reaching out to those folks, and you're going to identify the dates within the framework that you created for the first and third Fridays.
Yes, so I wanted to make sure, I mean, obviously the first and third Fridays dates are nailed down.
Right.
The QPFs are not yet. I was hoping to ideally nail down the QPF date, quarterly public forum dates as well, and then schedule any guests for both the quarterly public forums and our Fridays, sort of get all that scheduling done at the same time. But yes, that is definitely on my list of things to do in the very near future. Thank you. Any other questions for any of that?
All right, thank you, Dan. Thank you. Do you mind, Dan, or does
I
Does
go
it
by
need to
so
be
many
Daniel?
different things.
all right? I don't want to take any liberties, you know. All right, thank you for those board updates. Now I think we're ready for Greg.
You know, the information that we have to present today is protected by deliberative privilege, so
Gotcha,
we'll wait till executive session.
gotcha. Okay, duly noted. I guess we're ready for Chief Pazen, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to introduce for discussion. We can let him in now.
Chief Pazen has not yet joined. I think he's supposed to be joining in the next 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, okay. So we have 5 minutes to talk about any other subject that we would like to cover.
With regard to the QPFs, I think an approach could be just to send out the calendar invites. I don't typically know my schedule that far in advance anyway. I don't know if others feel the same way, but maybe we could just go, presuming those are our dates, and if we've got a huge number of declines on that invite, we can find another one.
That's the December 3rd date.
For the next one, and then that's November. 9th.
November 8th, November 9th. Yeah, let me write that down.
But then Daniel has a whole calendar for all of next year as well. So does that work for folks if he sends out calendar invites and we just go that way?
It'd be great. I think that's a quick way of kind of determining who's available and whether or not we need to start looking at other dates. So makes sense to me. That November 2nd date is coming up pretty quickly. In terms of the NACO conference, I do have a quick question. I think last time we were getting ready to go, the person, I know we reached out to the person that was the administrator last time, but also in terms of reimbursements and kind of how that works when you're traveling and the per diem and things of that nature. I'm guessing once we all decide how many are going, you'll put together some type of email that gives out all that information. It would make it a lot easier. I know last time I didn't really understand it until I got there. So
I can certainly do that.
okay, thanks. Pazen on yet? Was he supposed to join us at 10:30? Is that the?
Yes, I was told that he would join by 10:30.
Okay. One of these action items I'm looking at in terms of formalizing a cadence of communication between board and public safety. I don't know if that's something that we've had. I've seen a couple of emails go across, but is that something we've kind of broadened that discussion that you guys have had more this week? Who have you reached out to, and kind of curious about what that cadence should look like if we're kind of looking at like a weekly thing or bi-monthly, something formal, of what was the idea around that? And I guess you guys discussed that at the last meeting as well.
Daniel, I don't know if you want to address that. I think we haven't really formalized the idea, but it was more of just having regular scheduled meetings such that we didn't have to go through, weeks of calendaring to get time.
Okay, okay.
We're working on the first meeting with public safety to go over our thoughts on the reimagining police public safety report. Combined with engaging with Elise to do a meet and greet.
Is that something they were open to?
It was their idea.
Ah, even better.
Yeah, and I think the point of trying to formalize a cadence relates to both sort of how far in advance, say, we send them questions or topics that we would like discussed at our meetings, and how far in advance of our meetings we'd like them to send us information so that we can sort of have an adequate amount of time to properly review it before meeting
Yeah.
on it. And so it wasn't, I think 1 week is sort of the impression that I've been receiving, but that hasn't been explicit or finalized.
Gotcha. Some rules of engagement for
Yeah.
we talk to each other.
At last board meeting, they sent us a lot of information, like on Wednesday or Thursday. So it's, we all have jobs. It's really hard to process
Right.
that kind of information in
Right.
24 hours. My preference
Sure.
would be for us to get it one board meeting and discuss it the next. So a 2-week cycle, or
Makes
2 weeks in
sense.
advance of when we can discuss it with them. What do
Right.
others think?
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Stefan, you had something?
Yeah, something different. I didn't want to interrupt that discussion.
We good. I'm good on that.
Okay. I know last time we talked about that we'd only had perhaps only one or in any event, very few applicants for the open board positions. I was just curious over the last couple of weeks if there have been any changes to that and we've gotten more applicants. I know we've made an attempt to expand our outreach.
I don't know.
I don't know
I
either.
don't think we have. Yeah, I need to. Well, we'll talk about this. Who needs to check on that? So.
So
My
Daniel-
last contact indicated, sorry, Katina. please
No, I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, actually, I was suggesting, I mean, I think it's appropriate for Daniel to reach out to
So I thought.
liaison and find out.
My last contact with the nominating committee was that they had a total of 3 applicants. But I have received a few individuals have reached out through the board email address or the board voicemail account number to inquire about more information. So hopefully we will see a few more applications coming in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Looks like Chief Pazen has joined us. All right.
Hello, everybody. Coming through.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Thanks for joining us, Chief Pazen, being on this morning, being prepared to share with us and the community for a little bit. The floor is yours for the next few minutes here, and once you open up, we'll probably open it up for questions, and we'll go from there. Partially through depending on how long you take, I may drop off. It's not because I'm not interested in what you're saying. I have another meeting and I'll pop off and I'll pop back on, but Julia Richmond, who is the board vice chair, will step in there.
Okay, sounds great. I understand. You all sent a few questions in advance. How about I just start on addressing those? And then after that, we can open it up to questions. So as I have it, question number 1, amount of time in the academy dedicated to de-escalation, ABLE, active bystandership for law enforcement, or First Amendment training, right? That's how y'all understand the question number 1. Again, topics like de-escalation are woven into essentially just about every piece of training the department offers. For example, we created the advanced skills training, and 8 of the hours for advanced skills training, nearly half of it is dedicated to de-escalation. The academy itself, Colorado Post, which mandates academies be at least 556 hours of instruction. We require about double that. The Denver Police Academy is 1,065 hours of instruction. We also very proudly, as I wear my ABLE pin myself, are an ABLE city. We have a little over 500 of our officers that are trained in ABLE. I think we talked about this a little bit more. This is an evidence-based program that has been proven in the airline industry and the medical field to prevent tragedies, save lives, enhance careers. It's been adapted for law enforcement. We were one of the first cities to jump on board. We're very committed and focused to this, including trying to get ABLE across the state of Colorado. And one of our budget requests is to just do that. Anytime something happens that could have been prevented, a tragedy happens that could have been prevented, or unnecessary force that could have been prevented, even if it happens outside of our jurisdiction, it certainly has an impact on our ability to work with our community. So that's why we think it's so important that the entire state adopt this, as well as every agency across the country adopt this. We have since put that in the first week or two of every academy class to show how impactful it is. With regards to First Amendment training, this is talked about in several different courses. It's part of our introduction to criminal justice, where it's discussed at least 6 hours there. Colorado Criminal Code, public peace and order, it's at least 2 hours there. It's even part of our field force training, with at least 5 hours dedicated to the First Amendment side of things. De-escalation is something that it truly is woven not only throughout the policy manual, but in training. Specifically scenario day 4, there's 4 hours. Our special populations panel, there's 4 hours, 30 minutes for our deaf community, folks that are dealing with mental health challenges, 30 minutes. Scenario day number 5, 3 hours, mental aid first, or risk response and mental aid first aid, 8 hours, community policing and partnership, 2 hours, effective interactions with youth. And I have 32 total different ones. I bet you probably don't want me to read those off, but I'll just say officer survival, 8 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours, scenario 4, 4 hours, high risk stop, 4 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. We cover quite a bit. We also touch on it with our less lethal taser training and policy review to go over this. That's 8 hours. Our Denver Public School response. This is something fairly new with the changes that have been made there. Our firearms training as well. So, and then it's also touched on in community or continuing education. Do you want me to go forward or open it up for questions?
I think that's good. Let's open it up for questions. I think that's probably a good stopping point. And maybe others may have questions like me. And maybe you said this, but did you say physical handicap hours on there, dealing with folks? Maybe you.
Yes. And we have that in a couple of places. So not only our hearing impaired community, we talked about mental health area. We also have it for autism. Very proud of the efforts that we're doing with regards to individuals that are on the spectrum. And this one is particularly important because there's a lot of lessons that we need to know. Police radios, lights can really aggravate a situation, and being responsive to those types of issues can really help to de-escalate these types of situations.
Yeah, thank you. Because my question was kind of born out of not something that happened here, but something that happened in, I believe it was Ohio. And when the gentleman was a paraplegic or quadriplegic, one of the two, I don't remember, couldn't get out of the car. And part of what the police department was saying, it followed their training. And so that's definitely one question that I had. If officers are being trained when they come upon situations like that where someone is physically incapable of stepping out of the car.
Agreed.
Okay.
And then, I won't go through all of these. We have, again, our continuing education program. The state of Colorado requires 24 hours annually. We exceed that. We're at 68 hours of mandatory training. And, we do look at situations that occur across the country and try to figure out, are there ways to prevent those types of situations, so that way we're not reliving those types of issues here.
Okay, yeah. And if someone could, maybe specifically, I know I've had a couple of questions asked of me this week regarding what the DPD policy was for dealing with those particular incidents. So if there's some place that maybe you can email us after this or send us someplace to look that I can direct the public to, that'd be great.
Okay, and that was just question number one. Were you ready?
Yep, I'm coming.
Julia, you have your hand up. Did you?
Well, I got another one. So
Okay.
hold on. Yeah, hold on. So the second one is regarding ABLE training. And I want to make sure I understand the thought process around it. So the ABLE training is kind of interwoven into every system that you guys are working on, but there's nothing specific, so specific class hours regarding that ABLE training. Or did I hear that correctly?
Let me, maybe I didn't state it as clearly as I could have. ABLE training is very specific, and we do it in two different settings, right? 8 hours of instruction, folks, maybe, they're doing a good job comprehending the first half. They go to lunch, we all get tired, right? So that's a lot. So we actually break it up into two separate 4-hour blocks. And this is something that we are very committed to. So I attended myself, all of our command staff attended the very first ABLE training, and this is required for every member of our department. We are focused on the uniform members first, but we've also worked with ABLE, and we have a professional staff, or some folks refer to them as our civilian staff. So this is something that we believe in. I think every law enforcement agency across the country, that if they believe in and were taught in the ABLE principles, as well as some of the same things that you're asking about, de-escalation, ICAT is one of the formalized training programs. If they had these two training programs, we certainly could prevent many of the horrible tragedies that have occurred across our country, and the sooner that we do that, it would definitely help law enforcement, particularly in its ability to build trust and strengthen relationships with our community. So we are very focused on ABLE. Part of our budget request is a program manager that can help facilitate this, so that everywhere in the state of Colorado we could do this. We're working with the AG on this. Colorado State Patrol is very committed to trying to get everybody in the state of Colorado. But some of the other videos that you have seen, where an individual could have intervened and prevented that, that's what we want every member of our department, professional staff, as well as our uniform staff. So that way, and I tell the recruits on day one, me wearing my ABLE pin means you have permission to tackle me, to knock me off of somebody, to prevent harm from taking place, and potentially to save my career. It is something that we believe in, but we want those interventions further upstream. We want those interventions when we're arriving on scene. We want those interventions when we're at roll call or anything like that. If something is off, we want somebody to step forward and check in and see what's going on, and utilize these techniques that they have learned, these evidence-based techniques, in order to prevent harm, enhance careers, and help rebuild trust in our community.
Thanks, Chief, for answering both of those. Appreciate it.
Julia,
Julia, yeah. Sorry.
Karen, you go.
Chief, did you say that you devoted 2 hours of training to the hearing impaired part of your academy of training? And did that include the differently abled individuals?
so we do kind of similar to what I talked about with we do a 4-hour special populations group where we talk about many of these, and then specifically to hearing impaired, we have 2 separate sessions where we do it for an additional half hour.
So it's actually an hour for hearing impaired?
Correct. But it's also part of the 4-hour special populations.
And then do you have a specific time slot for the differently abled individuals you encounter?
So similarly, like folks that are on the autism spectrum, that is for an additional half hour that we have. And then, and this is strictly in the academy that we're talking about here, right? Then we also utilize a community academy part after folks graduate to follow up. So for example, in Northwest Denver, we work with folks that are active organizations in those particular areas. We've partnered with Servicios de la Raza. We've partnered with the Orthodox Jewish community. We've partnered with the YES Foundation, with Carlo Kiesel, and to do some additional work with youth, with our Orthodox Jewish community, with our Latino communities. So there's additional reinforcement that takes place in particular districts after they finish the field training program.
And so is there a specific area that deals with an individual that was similar to the one in Ohio that is paraplegic or has an inability or limited mobility?
Only part of that 4-hour special populations. Not specific to mobility. It's definitely something that we can take another look at.
Thank you.
My question is following up from a meeting we had with you probably in the spring due to increase in crime and short staffing. I think you communicated that to sort of complete some of the required trainings, or you couldn't get all of your officers through it. So just wondering where you are with that. It's awesome that you guys require so much training, but you have to take it for it to be impactful. So just kind of want to know where you are on that.
We are getting the training done, period. Staffing is a significant challenge. We're between 140 and 160 officers down, which is a huge challenge when our calls for service are actually up. Through Sunday, our year-to-date calls for service against our 3-year baseline are up 6.2%. That's about 16,000 more calls when our staffing levels are down 8-9%. So that's a challenge. And then when you add these required training hours to it, it takes away from the ability to manage the call load. But this training is critical, right? We recognize the value of ABLE training, of our advanced skills training, the de-escalation that everybody on this screen is demanding, and rightfully so, demanding of our officers. We got to get it done. So we're not using our staffing challenges as an excuse. I'm very encouraged that we've been able to get at least 500 of officers through ABLE in a relatively short amount of time. So we'll continue at that pace because it is a priority.
Glad to hear it.
I still have several. I mean, we can be done with the training one if you want, or we can go back to that. And then I still have questions 2 through 8. Did you
I would-
want
I
to do
would-
that, or do you want to just open it up?
I have a training adjacent question. Good morning, Chief. Good to see you, by the way.
Great to see you.
You know, in some research literature, there's talk about you can do all this stuff with the recruits in the academy, but they still go out in the field training and it can be undone. And then I think we're all familiar with some anecdotal stuff where FTOs say, you know, forget everything you learn in the academy. This is what we do in the street. So what steps do you take to make sure that FTOs are consistent with what's taught in the academy and that they continue to get ongoing training about what's taught in the academy?
Excellent point. And you bring up a gap that has plagued law enforcement for many years. And how we deal with this is we have transitioned from the traditional field training program that maybe you're aware of people that have gone through the traditional field training program. We have the PTO model, which is more inclusive as far as that adult learning. So instead of somebody coming out into patrol and then just throwing them at every single thing that exists and expecting them to resolve that situation, it's a phased approach. So, and the recruits, the trainee at the beginning phases only has 25% of the workload, right there. And we have a checklist that corresponds with the academy training that goes over reinforcing all of these particular tasks. And it's done at a phased approach where by the end of it, where they started only doing 25% to include even things like driving, right? In the traditional sense of law enforcement, you would get a recruit and you throw them into the deep end. Your driving, your orientation, your handling of the calls, you were expected to, you know, just get as much exposure and handle it, and then be graded on the tasks that you completed. And you either pass those tasks or you fail those tasks. What this process is, it takes in those adult learning concepts and even like that 360 analysis where the recruit is responsible for their training. They report out on what they're doing well, what they're struggling in, what their plan is to address these deficiencies if they have them, but it's a more methodical approach that reinforces what they learn in the academy, and it doesn't allow for somebody to deviate from that approach. So we switched to the PTO program. I can try to get you an exact date on that. My guess is it was right around 2016, 2017. And this is more of that, it's the next evolution. And I think it, you know, serves to address some of those traditional deficiencies or gaps that were created where it was the world according to a training officer, not the 1,000+ hours of instruction that somebody had received in the academy. Did that answer the question?
It did, thank you.
All right, I guess we can move on to the next question there.
Okay, so as I have it, question number 2, the process/status of formalizing mutual aid agreements, as well as the stated goal in response to the OIM report on George Floyd protests. I assume that's what you all have.
Yep.
You know, again, we had that conversation that took place with Metro area chiefs and sheriffs back on February 10th. We do have mutual agreements that are signed, and we've accomplished that. Question number 3 is basically, you know, kind of.
Hold on one sec, Chief. Is there anything from the board on that second one? Just want to make sure, because that was such a big item that we covered. I
guess I have a
Katina?
quick question,
Thank
please. Thank you
Sure.
so much, Chief Pazen, for being here with us. I think I was just interested, you know, one of the reasons that if I recall from the report, that the mutual aid program agreements were seemed important was that there were law enforcement personnel from other jurisdictions acting on our behalf, but could not say be held accountable for not complying with our policies and the like. I guess, could you give us a sense of whether that concern has been addressed in these mutual aid agreements?
The answer is yes, and part of it is, give credit where credit is due, 217 as well. So, the types of tools and equipment that can be used is spelled out. Some of, prior to May 28th of 2020, you still, each agency is responsible for their own policies, but one of the things that 217 did with respect to these areas was really spelled out what that would look like. And so our mutual aid agreements reflect those requirements that were part of 217 as well.
And if you could just refresh, our memory and that of the public here, does 217, what does it say about complying with the policies of the jurisdictions where, folks are being asked to come in and assist?
So, and then also the stipulation as well. So, as you know, the judge's stipulation indicated, what can be used by whom and where. So that served as the guideline to who could we reach out to on mutual aid agreements, and what types of approaches could be used as well.
I see. So you're saying that with regard to the munitions that get used when to assist, what about if there are violations of policies? How's that handled?
Any violations of policies are handled by that particular organization, kind of the same way that if you have a task force with multiple agencies, each individual is responsible for the policies of their particular agency.
Does that answer your question, Katina?
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead,
Somewhat.
Stefan.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually wanted to follow up. I'm a little unclear now. I wanted to follow up on Katina's question, Chief. And again, thank you for being with us. Very much appreciated. So are you saying that SB 217, and I think by the stipulation, you're referring to the injunction that was issued by the federal judge?
Correct.
Are you saying that if other agencies assist Denver in connection with mass protest situations, that they are or they're not required to comply with with the terms of the injunction, the SB 217?
Yes.
I think that they are correct. That
Yes.
they have to comply with our use of force and munitions policies that are compliant with those two things.
Correct. Only so let me go backwards for just a second, right? The stipulation or injunction, talks about, for example, beanbag shotguns, right? That's not something that the Denver Police Department utilizes. So an outside agency in a mutual aid agreement could not utilize the beanbag shotguns, for example. So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
You are correct.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Guess we're ready for number 3, please.
So question number 3, the process and status, internal review of the announcement. It's at the very bottom of the DPD website, responding to the OIM's George Floyd report. We have implemented the changes consistent with the OIM report and the legislative mandates, right? I mean, that's why the report points to these types of issues, as well as the legislative mandates. And then when we're talking about this, we have expanded the training on the topic of crowd management, and also, when we're talking about earlier, the training able, we want those interventions to make sure that we're implementing those same types of strategies to help us out. And then we're continuing to train with our partners. I think that was part of it as well. We want to make sure that those relationships, those understandings, that those are taking place prior to any type of crowd management deployment.
Perfect. Guess we can move on. Any questions on that, guys? All right, move to the next. Thank you, Chief.
I have question number 4. What's the DPD's response to the recent $2.5 million judgment of Mr. Michael Valdez? So I'm going to try to answer this the best that I can. There's a second part in here which says, what did the internal accountability process for the event look like at the time? And is DPD making changes now as a result? So, we can't comment on litigation. The city attorney's office is reviewing the situation for potential appeal, and it would be inappropriate for me or anybody else within the city to talk specifically about our response to the judgment in that particular case. What does the individual accountability process look like, or what did it look like at the time? And then is DPD making any changes? Again, not making any kind of specific comments to any kind of litigation. We have implemented some changes with regards to officer-involved shootings, where we have a multi-jurisdictional response to include state partners and other law enforcement agencies, that also the Office of Independent Monitor to review when those types of situations occur and they're present during those investigations. As far as policy manual, our policy manual, including use of force policy, has been updated since then. Significant changes. I will remind folks of the use of force committee that helped develop the use of force policy that we currently have, and also at least 55 different areas within the policy that have been updated to talk about the de-escalation techniques, reassessing high-risk situations, and things of that nature. So again, that is separate and above of any type of comments on any potential litigation. And I hope folks understand the limitations that we face with regards to these types of discussions. Julie, I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks. Chair Gardner dropped off, but I'll continue the conversation. So my understanding of this particular action is that this is not the first lawsuit against this individual, and that there was a similarly sized multi-million-dollar action against this person for excessive force in the past, and that's a settled matter. I just am wondering, sort of, from a taxpayer standpoint, that really pisses me off, frankly, to have to pay, ongoing lawsuits for people who have, broken the policy and been penalized for it. And I wonder, what you can speak to, how the force can avoid this kind of thing in the future, right? I don't want to pay for bad actors in our force. I could think of a lot of things I'd rather do with, $5 million of tax dollars or city money.
Again, without specifically talking about this particular incident, it's critical that we take a hard review of our practices, our policies, and look for areas to improve. Again, without getting myself in trouble, I think that's about the best that I can answer a question on.
Yeah, I guess a different way of asking the same question is, for these folks who are repeatedly disciplined for the same, policy violation, what action are you taking to ensure that, we're not just penalizing, that we're actually taking action to ensure that something changes?
I hear you loud and clear, is what I can say. Again, I cannot comment on litigation without, it just would be inappropriate for me or anybody else in the city to talk about any pending litigation. I can tell you that we are committed to reviewing situations and looking for opportunities to enhance policies, practices, training, things of that nature, moving forward on any type of situation that we face, whether there's litigation involved or not. We also look at different areas across the country. I think the last time we spoke, we talked about taser policy, right? We did an extra review of that. We used to allow for tasers on the same strong hand. We know about a tragedy that occurred in the Midwest where, you know, there was approximately 19 incidences over 20 years. One of the ways to reduce that was not to confuse your strong or dominant hand, the same hand that you use with your firearm, with your taser. We didn't wait for a tragedy to occur here. We didn't wait for litigation to occur here. We changed that policy and training where it's only on the offhand or what's called the weak hand as well. So I apologize that it may sound like I'm dancing around a question. That's not what I want to do. It would be inappropriate for any person in the city to comment on pending litigation. Stefan?
Go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah, Chief, I fully appreciate, as one of the lawyers on this board, I fully appreciate where you're coming from on the litigation and understand the it's difficult for you to respond specifically with respect to that matter. I just wanted to confirm a fact though. This particular officer, he is still on the force, am I right?
You are correct.
Okay, and is he on any kind of administrative leave?
I'm not going to comment on anything other than what I've already
Oh,
stated.
okay. All right, I didn't know if that was a public fact. I'm not asking you to comment anything that's not public, but okay. Just wanted to know if he was still an active officer. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions from the board on this? I guess just as a follow-up from my question, you know, I'm sort of less interested in the actual outcome. I mean, I'm very interested in the actual outcome of this matter, but really from a process perspective, how do we avoid this generally in the future? And perhaps we can just pose that question to you for our next board meeting, recognizing, you know, you want to avoid saying anything related to this particular matter, but if that's okay, you know, I'd love a follow-up from a process perspective. How do we do this differently going forward?
Well, I think, you know, from a process perspective, we've already made significant changes to use of force policies. Again, not applicable to this particular incident or saying that this particular incident was any driving factor, deciding factor in this. We've worked with our community to create one of the strongest use of force policies anywhere in the country. One of the few police departments that complies with the 8 can't wait for example. And we are committed to training the officers in this police department as part of question number 1. Even with limited staff, we well exceed Colorado Post requirements for academy training, and we well exceed Colorado Post training requirements for continuing education. And we also are looking across the landscape for areas where we can improve both externally and internally. And those comments are not directed at any type of pending or possible litigation in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you. Okay. No further questions on that. Go ahead, Chief.
Question number 5. The question says, on June 19th, Chief Pazen told the Citizens Oversight Board that the DPD does not actively participate in the federal 1033 program, or AKA the surplus military equipment. Is that still true? The answer is yes, that is still true. We do not and will not seek support through the 1033 military program in the future. Any questions on that one? Question number 6 is fairly similar. On same date, Pazen told COB that the DPD does not use facial recognition software. Is that still true? The question is the same. Yes, that is still true. We do not have plans to implement this type of technology anytime in the future. Any questions on that one? Question number 7. The board would like to hear an update regarding the status of the vaccine mandate related to actions and any related workforce attrition. Sorry, I heard something buzzing. So as of the date that the mandate took effect, September 30th, the Denver Police Department had a rate of 98.8. We have 13 individuals, likely 14 here soon, who have identified the vaccine mandate as their reasoning for resigning, retiring, or leaving the police department. I think that basically answers that question. And then was attrition rate a second question, or was that the same question?
Same question.
Okay, we're good on number 7. All right, question number 8, the last DOS, Department of Safety, or last week, Department of Safety provided the Citizens Oversight Board with an update on the status of disciplinary cases related to the George Floyd protests. The update showed that only 4 cases had been sustained and 15 cases remain open. The board is interested in Chief Pazen's response to the low rate of sustained cases and an explanation as to why 15 cases remain unresolved over a year later. You know, and I think we've been asked this question recently as well. You know, these cases were thoroughly investigated. They had to be thoroughly investigated, and there are multiple levels of review. As I stated publicly as well, that the Denver District Attorney's Office looks at every single one of these cases, as well as every case that comes into internal affairs, whether it's through the Office of Independent Monitor or IAB itself. And that review had to be comprehensive. So the additional administrative investigation or internal affairs investigation does not begin until the criminal or potential criminal investigation is over. And you know, as stated, the Denver District Attorney's Office did not file any criminal charges in any one of these matters. Then the administrative review takes place for these cases, again monitored by the Office of Independent Monitor, and then there's you know, going back and forth on these particular cases. So that is the reasoning behind the lengthy time frame for these cases. And as far as, you know, holding people accountable, yes, we have held people accountable for their actions. And similar to what I stated earlier, is that we will continue to look for opportunities to learn from these types of responses, learn from these types of situations for areas to improve. I think that covered it. Questions on that? Okay, those are the 8 questions that the board had forwarded. You know, again, apologize for, I think it was question number 4. I hope you understand you know, our response on that particular area. Karen or Katina, you have a question?
So yeah, no, I guess I think I was just wondering, I know that there are members of the public attending. I'm just curious if there are any questions from them. Doesn't appear so. I just wanted to make sure that we were being, open.
Stefan, if that's okay, Katina?
Yeah, I don't want to usurp a member of the public, but if there aren't any right now, then I
Yeah,
do
that's
have
fine.
Chief, you mentioned, in a response to an earlier question, quite a concerning statistic being that, 8 to 9, you're down 8 to 9%, 140 to 160 officers on the force. What efforts are being done to try to address that? And are you encouraged, and do you think that that will be addressed in whole and in part in the relatively near future? What are your thoughts on all that? That's a very concerning issue.
It is a very concerning issue, and I'm glad that you're given this opportunity to talk about it. One of the things that we're doing, first and foremost, and I do have this on my desk because I got a lot of things on my desk. But one of the things is we're asking the public to help us be the change that you want to see. Be the change yourself, right? What better way to improve law enforcement than to actually do the job? So one of it, and you'll see this on the back of every police car, we are actively recruiting. We want people from this community who want to see change to raise their hand, to sign up and do this very difficult work to help people to improve their community, to make a difference. And these are significant challenges. Law enforcement agencies across the country, for various different reasons, are having staffing challenges. But we could also say that about other fields as well, right? National news talks about the great resignation that took place in July and August, where 4+ million people, transitioned out of the work that they were doing, wanting to find work-life balance and kind of reassessing what their values are, what they want out of work. So I think as society is evaluating this, police officers are a microcosm of society. We come from this community as well. We have this families and the same work-life balance challenges that other folks have. So we are actively recruiting. I'm very thankful that that City Council used some ARPA dollars for a class that starts on Monday. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to put as many officers or recruit officers in that class as we would have wanted. It's not by a lack of trying. It's just we had a short turnaround. That vote wasn't until late July, early August. And generally, we have somewhere between 8 and 10 months to try to fill a class. This one, we were looking at about 2 months. And so it's going to be a little bit lighter than what we had anticipated, but it's actually a step in the right direction. The economic conditions that this city faced are the prime reason why our staffing is so challenged right now. 2020, the city had to cut $220 million. We cut $32.5 million from our budget. That equaled not hiring 97 officers, right? I mean, I told you we're down about 140, maybe 160. If we had that 97, it certainly would be, as pronounced as what we are feeling right now. But that was, driven by the economic factors. And the same was for every agency across the city. They had to make significant cuts in their budget. As the city is bouncing back, we are attempting to bounce back as well. But the workload is significant. The 911 calls, as I stated, those are up 6.2%. And it's no secret, right? Our homicides are up. Our shootings are up, our burglaries are up, our auto thefts are up, our car break-ins are up. These shootings, that takes a lot of resources. Domestic violence is up significantly. And as you can imagine, a response to these high-level violent crimes takes a lot of resources. It takes a lot of staffing hours, both on the response end as well as on the investigations end as well. So staffing is a huge challenge for us right now. But I believe that as these economic conditions get better, as we work to do a better job recruiting from our community, that we will have an opportunity to bounce back and be able to meet this need that is out of balance, right? We have fewer officers today than we had in 2008. The city of Denver has grown by hundreds of thousands of people, 30% increase between the last two census that we had. So it's out of balance currently. And the response times, for examples, show that our response times to these high priority calls and low priority calls, it's taken a lot longer to get to these particular incidences. So Stefan, I hope I answered the question, or more detail. Did you need any more other than what I stated?
No, that is helpful. Do you feel though that, an expansion of programs like the STAR program, where you will have people responding to incidents involving mental health, homelessness, and/or drug addiction, which could then relieve the police department from responding to those calls and having, frankly, more appropriate responses in those instances, and would then, the police could then focus more on what you're saying with, these more serious, high-profile calls. Do you think that can help?
Yes, and that's why the STAR program is here in the first place. I don't mind saying that about 4.5 years ago, it was two nonprofits and myself sitting down in North Denver at Chili Verde talking about STAR and how we could get this implemented. And our goal was to implement this, therefore police could focus on areas where they are better equipped to deal with violent crime, property crime, traffic safety. So that was the whole premise and why we actively supported and got this program off the ground in the first place. However, you can't think that STAR by itself is the panacea and is going to solve all of the issues. A review of the data, best case scenario, the STAR band can respond to about 2.4% of our calls for service, of our total calls for service. There's an independent study that came out that looked at 9 different cities looking at a very similar criteria of mental health related calls, middle to low level mental health related calls where the individual is not violent or not armed. They've rank it at 1.3% of the calls for service can be diverted from law enforcement to a mental health paramedic style model. So I would encourage folks to take a look at that. Yes, help on 2.4% of our calls would be great, but I also just told y'all that our calls for service, not exclusive to mental health, actually mental health related calls, we saw a 17% spike in 2019, and then they've basically leveled off 2020 and 2021. So at the same time that, yes, I would love for the right response to handle the right type of call, that STAR can alleviate 2.4% of our calls, but we have a 6.2% increase in total 911 calls. At the same time, we have about an 8-9% decrease in staff. And it's the same reason why we also support the SET team, right? We have civilians that will be, as of next week, helping on some of these people experiencing homeless calls, right? I want the police officers to focus on violent crime, property crime, traffic safety. Those are the areas where they are best equipped to respond to these types of calls. So we've civilianized many areas, right? When we're talking about accident calls for service, if it's a non-injury, the person's not intoxicated, then we don't need a police officer to handle that. And that's why we have 29 civilians in our CRT program that respond to that call, so we can free up police officers to handle those police-related matters. So we've demonstrated that we believe in that type of approach, and we're committed to it because we put our money where our mouth is on this issue. And the reality of it is, though, that there are a significant number of police-related calls that work is increasing, and at the same time, our resources is diminishing. So we got to get that back in balance to help us address these spikes. It's a 50% spike in shootings, and that is a police officer response to those types of calls.
Thanks, Chief. Very interesting.
Just a follow-up on that. Are there any new or novel approaches that you're taking to recruitment? And how are those going? What are you doing and how are those going?
Julia, thanks for the follow-up, because I'll try to put a finer point to this. We're hurting in public safety, right? I told you the challenges that we're facing. The Denver Sheriff's Department, they're down about 200 sheriff's deputies. Denver 911, they're down staff significantly as well. And all of this has to work together. It has to fit together. EMS and Denver Health Paramedic Division, they're having some challenges. And so when we're talking about a system that's designed to get the right resource, police, fire, EMS, to a emergent response, you want that done as quickly as possible. And when those resources are diminished, right? Hypothetically, let's say the police department was fully staffed, but if Denver 911 was short-staffed, that would have a tremendous impact on our ability to respond to these high priority calls. And any one of these systems being out of balance, or these resources being out of balance, really impacts our ability to handle these critical, in some cases, life or death situations in a timely manner. And so our new approach, or what we've done, is we actually created a recruitment video that puts all of this together. It's not just the police department put their video out and come join the police department, or sheriff's, fire, that they just put their own, that we're doing it siloed. We're actually doing it together, because all of these systems have to work. They have to be resourced appropriately, because we need to get to these critical calls as quickly as possible. Did that answer the question, Julia?
Sure, thanks. All right, any additional questions for Chief Pazen?
Forgive me, what is the CRT program?
It's Crash Reporting Technician. And I won't bore you too much. We don't use the word accident anymore. Those are considered crashes. And I won't bore you with the details, but that's where the C comes from, Crash Report Technician. So it's 29 civilian positions that, if they're, the individual's not intoxicated, they're not fighting with one another on scene, that they have insurance, then basically that's a low-level call for service, right? You're getting the report made. Therefore, it's documented. People can get their insurance taken care of. If there's a citation that's necessary as a result of it, that's not exclusively a police-related call. It frees up police officers to handle those other 911 calls. So CRT program.
Okay, thank you. How many individuals do you have involved in the SET program, SET?
So I will defer those questions to EDOS. I'm very proud of the efforts that the safety department has made with regards to SET team, right? I mean, it's similar as far as freeing up police officers or law enforcement to address the violent crime, property crime, traffic safety issues. I don't have, it's not my program, so I don't think it would be appropriate for me to talk about it, but I am very happy. And I am not sure if EDOS has been given the opportunity to present for council yet or not. So, and then as we're talking, it looks like EDOS has responded. SET is comprised of 6 civilians, including a supervisor or team lead. So there we go. It's a good thing Elise is listening in on the conversation.
And did you say that's going to be implemented next week?
I believe they wrap up their training and start here really quick. I think it's as soon as next week. I know they've been going through some very extensive training, de-escalation, city attorney, types of, I'm glad that they put that much effort on the front end. I know it's been a lot. I just don't know the details of it.
Thank you.
And perhaps the department can have a little bit more information for us when we meet next. If there are follow-up questions on that. All right, other questions for the chief? Okay, well, we'll give you some time back or maybe take more time. I'm not sure how long we had these scheduled for today, but thank you. Appreciate it and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you all.
With that, I will adjourn the meeting and have us enter executive session if there are no more agenda items in this meeting. Okay, see you over there.